the more expensive the worker or the more expensive you are. So I was giving an example. If you could go work for somebody and make 20 an hour, the equivalent of 40 before um, before you know before they match your taxes, before overtime, things like that. If you made 40, then you're worth more than just billing you out at 25 or $35 an hour. You're worth a lot more than that. So if you're performing that kind of a task, that task needs to be billed out at more than the hypothetical 35 to 40 I just gave you. So back to what I was saying. Imagine yourself on the property doing the work. Put your just you. You're doing, if we're doing a lawn mowing example here, you're doing the mowing, the edging, the weed eating, the blowing it off, the pulling the weeds out of the flower bed. How long is that going to take you every week? Let's say 3 hours. Multiply that 3 hours times 35 or $40 per man hour. If you are in a market where you're using big riding equipment, that riding equipment has a maintenance cost. It has a cost to purchase. It has a cost to maintain, the maintenance cost. It has a cost for fuel. It has all these costs. It has an insurance cost associated. You've got a $9,000 turf tiger out there. You want it insured, maintained, sharpen those blades. Those blades wear out. You've got to replace them. There's a cost to run that. There's an hourly cost. What is it? Does it cost you $5 an hour to run it, $10 an hour? Whatever that cost is, that needs to be added onto the $35 an hour, or $40 an hour. I gave you the example of that $35 to $40 an hour is using light equipment. It's one laborer with light equipment. Okay, now keep in mind, a lot of companies are billing way more than this rate, so please don't get confused and get locked in on the rate I'm giving you. It's solely a starting point because I believe everybody's wanting a starting point. It's just a starting point. If you're still using these numbers 3 years from now, I'm going to be very, very concerned that I've misconstrued the point. The point is, start if you need a number because you have nowhere to start. You're totally in the dark here. You don't know what number to start with. This is only your starting point. But I want to make sure you're clear that if you start with, say, $40 a man hour, and that number I threw out was based on one laborer with small equipment, and now you're going to use a $10,000 scag or $9,000 scag, that needs to be added on top of this $35 or $40 a man hour. Let's add another $5 to that, or $7. So if of the 3 hours you spend out there, 1 hour is on this scag, you need to add another $5 to $7 to that cost to pay for that piece of equipment. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So, you can, let's give another example. Let's say you had a Bobcat, and I'm talking about billing your guy out at $35 or $40 an hour. Do you really think you could bill your guy out $35 or $40 an hour when he's on a Bobcat? Versus when he's just by himself pulling weeds? Totally different cost. When he's pulling weeds, it's just him. He's using his hands pulling weeds. When he's on a Bobcat, he's got this big old piece of equipment that costs you a ton of money to buy, costs you a ton of money to maintain, costs you a ton of money to transport to and from the job. You gotta bill that hourly cost for that Bobcat back to that job. So think about it. These numbers I'm giving you are the starting numbers. They don't include big equipment. They don't include expensive riders, just small tools and individual labor. So I hope this clears it up. If not, please do ask for more clarification. But 35 to 40 is an interesting place to start. In the residential market, for billing out in bush trimming, in the south area, when you start getting into that $40 price range, that's when you start bumping up against some pricing resistance in the 40s. That's been our understanding. If you're pricing at 25, you're crazy. That is not a good number. I mean, you've got to be in the high 30s to low 40s as far as I'm concerned in the southern market for just one man trimming bushes or one man pulling weeds. And that might sound like a lot to you, but there's costs that are going to come into your business as you grow. It's not all pure profit between paying a guy $12 an hour and billing him out at $40 an hour. A lot of your clients are going to say, wow, $40 an hour. Some people will think that's crazy, that's extreme. I'll bet you're paying that guy $10, so you're making $30 an hour profit. Hey, it ain't $30 an hour profit. It isn't even close. And until you learn your numbers, you won't realize that. So that's kind of your starting ballpark. I hope that's helpful.